Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first symposium on refrigeration analytics, hosted by IBM Research. My name is Olivier Verscheure. I'm a senior manager here for big data analytics and systems. And I'll try in a very few slides to address some of your concerns, and maybe one that is, what is IBM doing in refrigeration? I'll try to show you how we look at this problem and show you how we look at similar problems from different industries. So just to get started, what is IBM Research? You all know what IBM is. Very few probably know about IBM Research. IBM Research is 3,000 researchers around the world across 13 labs, and 5 new labs were established in 2010, including Ireland. So we established this lab in 2010. Niall and I were probably, one of the first here, 3 or 4 people. We're 100 full-time researchers now in the lab in Ireland. And this is the only lab in Europe, actually, that IBM has, the only research lab IBM has. So 100 researchers, PhDs in optimization, in data mining, machine learning. There's other types of people that we hire. Legacy of world-class research, again, for people who don't understand or don't know IBM Research, this is where fractals were invented back in 1967 by Benoît Mandelbrot. Relational databases in the 1970s was invented. Fortran was invented. The scanning, tunneling, microscope, and so on and so forth. Culture of innovation, 5 Nobel laureates, many national medals of technology, Turing Awards, Center for Excellence for research specifically. Now, what does research mean? And actually the notion and the definition of research has evolved over the past few decades. When I joined IBM Research back in 1999 in New York, we were doing isolated research. We were really laboratory rats to a certain extent, doing mostly academic research. I was really isolated from including the rest of the divisions. Over the years, I saw a change where we started getting closer to the IBM divisions, trying to have impact at least within the company for some of the work that we were doing. And since the year 2000s, for the past 10 years, maybe including here in the lab, for the lab in Dublin, we're going after this motto, the world is now our lab. So basically the research director, the worldwide research director, when he established the lab here, he said, guys, go out there, work on real stuff, go work with collaborators, make sure that you get real data, you address real problems, and you find real solutions. That has been a very drastic change for IBM Research worldwide. It was a little easier here because we built a lab from the ground up. So we built a lab with that thing in mind. So yes, we hired PhDs, but we wanted PhDs who love to build stuff, who love to talk to clients, who love to speak up. So when we came here, the first question was, what are we going to do? Our mission back then was have an impact on cities. So we took that picture of downtown Dublin and we asked ourselves, okay, what do we see here? We see concrete, we see roads, we see people, we see buses, we see traffic lights. And quickly, working with the city officials, we realized that what we had was actually a data hub. And this is real data emanating from the city in real time. Well, it was in real time at the time, so this is just a recording of it. But when you start looking at all these silos of data, you really have a big data problem at hand. Data that is noisy, data that is of different formats, and there is a lot of information that you can gather by looking across all these different silos. And that's really how we work here. So whatever we look at, whichever industry we look at it from a data angle. What do we do? Before I get to that, big data, bad data, that's another way of saying, well, it's not just about having a lot of data. If you want to extract meaningful insights, you have to do the right thing with that data. So this cartoon, I like to use it. The guy clearly has access to a lot of the raw data, cell phone, pager, internet link, but is missing the crucial information that he's heading into a truck, basically. So he has all the raw data, he doesn't have the right information. So that's what we realized quickly. And so we worked across, and we're still working across different industries with 3 different pillars. So the first pillar is basically going from raw data to information. from a city point of view, imagine that you have GPS data from buses and induction loop data from the streets. How do you extract that data and extract speed on a specific road segment from it? The information here would be the speed. Analyze the city's needs, modeling and predicting demand and supply, for example. So once you have that speed, this instantaneous speed, can you actually build statistical models to predict what the speed will be 2 or 3 hours from now on that same road segment? For that, you need predictive models, predictive analytics. That's the second layer. And the third layer, which is what we call prescriptive analytics. It's once you have that speed projected into the future, can you actually use those models to understand how to optimally schedule traffic lights, for example, to minimize probability of congestion in the city? So these are the 3 layers of analytics that we go after. What we call descriptive, going from raw data to information. Predictive, modeling this information, the KPIs that you have, modeling them. And once you have those models, trying to optimize services based on those. As you will see at the end of the day, and I will let Niall jump in now and go over the agenda, but as you see on the agenda, we have a meet Watson over coffee. That's yet a 4th layer of analytics, what IBM calls the cognitive analytics. We enter the cognitive era, and I think you would enjoy this demonstration, which is really projecting all of us into the near future, actually. So again, as I said earlier, we're not experts in the industries that we work on necessarily. We collaborate, we partner with people who are experts. When we got here, we had nothing, we didn't know much about transportation. We didn't know much about distribution of electricity. We didn't know much about distribution of water. But we worked with engineers who had decades of experience in that area. We looked at it from our big data angle. They looked at it from their domain expertise. And, putting those 2 skills together usually leads to great stuff. So again, Niall has been the PI for a lot of this work that we're doing around refrigeration analytics, and I will let him go over the agenda. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I think I know quite a lot of people in the room here, and hopefully to meet all of you before the end of the day, but I always start conversations about where I come from. I come from Cork, and it's good to see there's a good Cork contingent here today. But the reason I mention it is that, and the guys know me well in terms of my passion, in terms of what I live for, and I live for energy and energy saving. And I can kind of safely say that the actual opportunity we're going to kind of go through with you today really kind of reflects probably the last biggest untapped resource of energy opportunity out there, refrigeration. Refrigeration, obviously for us, as Olivier said, is not something that we have any expertise in. But hopefully what you'll see over the next couple of hours will be how we actually went on that journey with our collaborative partners, in this case Tesco, to end up with what we think is a good story. And I guess if there was any takeaway that you need to take from the overall day, it's just to set the seed in people's heads that data can give you real value and real insight and real cost savings or whatever your motivations. But the actual insight that you get from the analysis and the analytic layer is hugely insightful, and for me personally it's very exciting. So what we wanted to try and do today was take you along that journey, and as starting from where we're at today, where the industry's at today, collectively we all share the pain of trying to access the data, trying to get it to a point where we can analyze it, and that's possibly where most, and we had a conversation with a few of the people earlier, this is probably where the pain point is right now. And I guess we have a couple of speakers that will help talk around how we're going to help to get that data kind of unleashed and obviously harvest the benefit out of it at the end of the day. So without further ado, I know we're actually running behind. I just want to introduce it to John Walsh. And I need to get your title right here because there's been a change of play here. He's the Power Partner Manager for ESB Innovation. But John previously worked very recently with Tesco as Tesco's engineering manager. And it's in that capacity he's going to talk to us today. About 3 years ago, John came to IBM Research to seek collaboration. Kind of having the foresight at the time to realize that that the data analysis where there was value and there was key kind of savings to be made. So I guess, he's going to tell us what his journey was, and obviously it's a 3-year journey, it's an ongoing journey, and I think there's some really, really useful insights coming from, I guess, the client at the end of the day. The only bad thing I'd say about John is that he sent me on his slide deck before the talk yesterday or whatever, and I realised he's after stealing some of my thunder and some of my slides. So I was furiously there last night trying to rewrite what else can I say about this, but anyway, either way it's a good story, so I'll just introduce you to John. John?